Hello and welcome to the June 2024 meeting of Triangle Association of Freelancers. Our guest this evening is Christy Murphy, a multi-self-published author based in California. She's going to be talking with us today about some tips and tricks to help overcome writer's block and help you make your dreams come true as a writer. So Christy, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey everybody, I'm really glad to be here. I love being around writers because it makes me feel I'm more comfortable. I think writers are just the most fun people in the world. If I'm having a party at my house, I like to invite writers. If I'm going to a party, I don't mind going to comedians, but I don't want them in my home. Um, but actually, okay, so I want to talk about overcoming obstacles, particularly writer's block. And let me just start with a couple of disclaimers. First of all, not every bit of advice is for everyone, and this is just the stuff that's worked for me and worked with other people that I've been working with. When I started writing, most of my initial writing career was me panicking under pressure, crying a lot, then finally turning in something that I thought could have only been better if I would have started earlier, followed by lights of crisis and confidence, and then just writing another thing again and again and again. And what I always wished it looked like is I wished it looked like Dawn, to be honest. I wish it looked like me saying I'm going to do this thing, exactly following up in the exact moment, doing all the appropriate research, starting well in advance, getting a little bit done every single day, having the ability to be excited and completely finishing all the way through. But what it actually ends up looking like for me is a really great idea, a lot of ideas, unfinished, and then following through on a couple more. And I used to have a lot of shame around that. But when I finally just admitted, whoops, what I'm good at, wait, I'm sorry, my iPad is like freaking out. There we go. When I finally kind of like worked with who I am as a writer, I started to turn out a lot more work, and I started to really like hone in on what worked for me. And I came up with a framework because I've been like one of those people that reads all those self-help books, the habits books, if there's like a book on like business or something like that, I'd read it and I'd start it and I kind of almost do it. I'd get things done, just like the Dave Allen book for like 5 weeks, and then everything would come crashing down, and then I'd try again and over and over again until I finally figured out what worked for me. And so I'm going to use a little bit of an acronym. I call it the CART strategy. It's the cognitive assessment realignment team is what it starts for. And the cognitive assessment is basically, I was introduced by this concept by Becca Syme, actually, who works, has anybody here heard of the Clifton Strengths? The Clifton Strengths, they do it in a lot of corporate stuff, and it's very detailed. But essentially, the concept is that if you align yourself with what you're good at, and you focus in on what you're good at, you'll actually make tremendous amount of progress instead of worrying about what you're really, really bad at. And I don't know if anybody remembers from Mean Girls, the original, stop trying to make fetch happen. This is the moment where I stopped trying to make fetch happen, and I recognize like what it is that I'm really good at. Now, just out of curiosity, are there any people who are like beginning writers, or are we all like how is everybody on like the publishing like spectrum? I know Dawn keeps company with like some amazing writers, and then some of us just start a little bit later. So is anybody here like a brand new writer, or is everybody well into like their third or fourth books? Like where are we? If you just type it into the chat, I've got my chat open. Where are we like on the chat? And how are you right now with procrastination? If you could just let me know how that's working. Oh, great. First novel. That's my favorite. Thank you for typing that. I'm a big fan. I think the first thing that you should do when you're writing your first novel is to write it, and then some of them are fun when you don't finish them. That is one of my favorite things to do with a novel, is to not finish it. Oh, good. So some new writers here. Okay, so I think there's going to be a lot of people here where you may know what I already have, but I really love and new to writing and publishing. Okay, all right. Congratulations on book 2. And you write a lot of articles. Okay, that's great. I love when you write articles because it's a great way to practice the art of finishing. I know, Deanna, you're well into writing. I knew that. I was wondering if everybody was there. And I know Critical Voice. Oh, you're one of me. Rebecca, one of me. Okay, good. All right, I feel at home. All right, I'm digging it. Okay, so the concept behind CART is the first thing is the cognitive assessment, right? And this is where we decide who we are as opposed to who we think we should be. And there's three parts that I do when I like finally sat down and assess where I am. I call it like taking stock, right? I figure out what it looks like when I actually win, what it looks like when I lose, particularly when I lose spectacularly, like when I absolutely fall apart and everything went wrong. I don't know if anybody else has as many. Oh, good. Some people still 4 books and love procrastination. Yes, I think it's a key. An engineer by training. I'm intimidated by Paul's engineering background. Um, my mom would have, doctor, engineer, or teacher. 3 choices as a Filipino. That's it. The rest. Um, so the thing about figuring out who you are is there are some people like my sister who are very much into doing, and what she needs is more confidence in what she's working at. And when she succeeds, she's actually one of these people who needs to be left on her own. Like, let her coordinate out her time and work at her own pace. If you're constantly hitting her with Slack chats at her job, she's going to get irritated. She's really good at having her time put together. For me, I realized that the only time I really write is if I have a deadline. And as much as I hate a deadline, the key for me was more deadlines. I mean, more deadlines. And that'll get back to when we get into the realignment. That was one of the things I had to put into place to get me to finish. So when you look at what you're doing, I just would like you, and we don't have a lot of time to get into the assessment, but when you're assessing yourself, the things I want you to know is what is it when you've had your biggest successes, try to really look and say, what was it about that I really loved? For some people, it's the people they worked with. For some, like I actually, my sister was telling me, she's like, she had this great job, a great job that everybody loved in show business. And the people there were, they were kind of like the swimming with sharks people. I was like, Edie, what was one of your favorite jobs? And she was like, I like this job and this job. One of the jobs that she said she loved was working at a movie theater. And I was like, is that the job where you had to scrape gum off the floor at 5 a.m. on a Sunday? He made it fun, was her answer. And what we deduce from my sister is for her, what matters is who she works with. Like that is, it's very Mary Tyler Moore. Like she could work any job if she enjoys the people she's working with. So her new thing when she takes on clients is, do I like this client? Can I work with them? Because she'll go, will they appreciate the work that I do? And for me, I like to work alone. And when I win, I usually win in more like solitary sports. I was never good at team sports. I did stand up, which is alone, but I couldn't do improv, which is a team, because the pressure of the team got to me, which is why indie writing always worked so well for me, because it's just me alone in a room. However, one of the things you need to assess is what kind of support do you need? Okay, so my sister needs no support. She needs to work with people and have people around her to work. But support wise, all she needs is tell me what you need to get done. At the end of the day, if you're one of these people who are like, I call them doers, right? You need to go at the end of the day and you need to write like all the things that you did do, because you'll never feel like it's enough. Okay, so the A as the assessment is one, just figure out where you're winning. The other thing is figure out where you're losing. And the losing one is a big one because it can get in your way. The losing is things like, I'll never get it right. I don't know enough to do this. What are the other ones? I'll always be rejected. Like you think of these things that you're afraid of, like down in your core. Like if anybody ever said anything about like me being weird or odd or whatever. I call it being niche now. I'm a niche person. I'm original. But as far as like being unprofessional or not being able to follow through, these are like the sore spots that I've had. And so what I do in advance is I let people know that it takes me time to return emails sometimes, that I need a very specific deadline in order for me to meet what we're doing. And I have to be very upfront with who I am. So when you're going through and assessing what you're at, just think of like the way to know what you're good and bad at is if you always have these, like, there's that point, I call it the bottom of the second act. When you're writing in a 3-act structure in a movie thing, the bottom of the second act is where all is lost, right? That's where the hero has to rethink everything that they thought of before. And they're like feeling really, really low. In that moment, what is a dialogue going through your head? And when you figure that out, like for me, it's like being judged. I'll always be judged, be it weird or odd or whatnot. Um, and so what I do later when I realign is I tell myself other things like, I'm not weird. I'm a star. Stars are naturally different. I'm not weird. I'm original. I'm unique. I am a niche person. I'm a acquired taste. Something like that to like keep me from feeling really, really bad about myself. And when it comes to my writing, one of the reasons why I write the mom and Mom is First and Christy Mysteries is because when I base characters on me, people literally will call them weird, and I find that painful. So I took my mom and I made her the star because she was the person that I knew that everybody loves. And because they're mystery novels, I have I always say every mom is part detective. So when you're doing your assessment, do that. And then there's also just flat out stats. If you download like a program like Rescue Time onto your computer, it will tell you how much time you have your document open. If you start logging your word counts in a program like Scrivener, where it has like word counts every day, that's why NaNoWriMo really worked for me because it was 50,000 words. I knew what I did and what I didn't do. And so when you do that assessment, figure out where do you win, where do you lose, and what are you doing? And then from there, you get into what I call the realignment. Okay. And of course, one of the things that I do is I embrace my inner Stuart Smalley, so I do the affirmations. Insert eye rolls here. You can affirm. One of the things I say all the time is I am a prolific writer. I am a prolific writer. I am a prolific writer. Interesting thing. One of my sister's affirmations, which I'll just blather here on the internet, was I am business savvy, because she's always worried. She always could do the work, but she was worried she couldn't sell the work. And she was saying to herself, I am business savvy and I work with business savvy professionals. That was one of her affirmations. We went to NINC, which was the Novelist Inc. conference in St. Pete. And her first client out of the gate was USA Today bestselling author Julie Mulhern. That was her very first client. The very first person she sat down to and talked to was Julie Mulhern after doing that affirmation for 90 days. Like it was almost like 93 days or something ridiculous. And I was just also, by the way, I just sell so many books to get to go to NINC. And Edie came as an industry professional, and she got to go to the VIP party. I was like, I just had to sell like $10,000 worth of books in 6 months to qualify to get here. And I wrote my butt off and like ran so many Facebook ads. She sails in, goes to the VIP party, and lands like a USA Today bestselling author as her very first client. I mean, well, technically, I'm her first client, but non-sister client. And so, as corny as they are, you are good enough, you are smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. If anybody remembers that old SNL joke, affirmations can work, particularly where you have the sore spots. Now, hardcore, let's get into procrastination. This is one of my favorite tips. Has anybody heard of body doubling? Ah, okay. All right. Body doubling is one of the coolest things that has ever happened to me. I've written 2 novels in a thing called Flow Club, but you can do it with just friends. Body doubling is the concept where when you see other people working, you work. And when you have instant accountability, accountability is a huge thing for me to get things done. And accountability, that's why like when you promised people, like I'm going to do word sprints with somebody today, I'm writing 250 words in this 15 minutes. I'll talk to you at the end of this 15 minutes, and then 250 in, right? For me, I use a thing called Flow Club, but there are tons of services, or you can do it. You get online with a friend, or you meet somebody for coffee, and you do essentially like a Pomodoro with them. You say, okay, in this half hour, I'm going to edit this chapter. And at the end of this half hour, we're going to check in and see how we did. And it's that minute by minute accountability that has genuinely helped me sit down to write. Now, I know there are plenty of people like my sister that don't need that tight of a deadline. But for me, doing a little bit every day is almost impossible. But being someone who can literally, there's been times, I don't know if anybody can relate to this, and I just got diagnosed with ADHD a year and 3 months ago at the age of like 51. I got diagnosed with ADHD, which explained a lot for me. But there's been days where I've been writing at home and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to get a snack. And I go to the cabinet, I go to get peanuts. A phone call happens, a package comes. I hit some weird time warp and now it's 8:30 at night and I have no idea why I didn't write it at all. And so doing something like having accountability by body doubling, like having a partner or having somebody I'm checking in with every day, literally allows me to see where time is going. I also call it with the time tub warp, the tub time warp. It's where I go into the shower, I rip van shower the day away because I didn't realize that I'm thinking thoughts about my book. The water goes cold and I step out and it's an hour later. Like, so if you're the kind of person who has issues with time, body doubling is really going to help. But also if you have issues with, you do things for other people, like you can get things done for everyone, but you can't get anything done for you. Body doubling really helps because you set the appointment, like I am going to do this at 1 o'clock with these people. And it forces you to put what you want done at that time because now it's an appointment that has to get done. And so I have found that body doubling and appointment setting or accountability all works. The other thing that has been working a lot, that's been working great for me regarding procrastination and writing is I used to always have word count goals. And sometimes I would get really upset that I couldn't hit them. Like I would just have like 1,000, 2,000, I need 1,700. And I've had like a 10K day, right? I did the 10K in a day challenge on Facebook and I got it and that was great. And then my brain was like, why can't I write 10K day? Yes, reward system absolutely works great. I was going to get the sticker in the laptop. Yeah, stickers. Oh, I'm so glad I looked into the chat. There is two times, there's a different, there are different times to do different types of goals. And so one of the things I recognized is time on task when you're working out plot things are great goals. So it's like 15 minutes, different 15-minute increments. I'm going to do 6 15-minute editing sessions, or I'm going to do 4 half-hour editing sessions, take a break, and then do 3 more. Those work better, or if I'm plotting or I need to think, it's literally time on task. I will open up my manuscript, I will spend this much time looking at it, and I will count it as a win. Because the hardest thing for me when I got really heavy into word counts was recognizing that sometimes I would just be writing to write, and then it would take me ages to fix it. And one of the things, has anybody ever gotten like what they call writer's block? Writer's block could be like a fun word if you enjoy it, but it also, for me, it literally, when I started really getting into the concept of block, it really bummed me out. And so now when I look at writer's block, I actually consider it more of a mystery. What I've noticed is when I don't know what's next, my brain is literally telling me something's up and I like to treat it like I write mystery, so I like to treat it as a mystery. So this is when I let myself stop and just think. I used to think that writing, like the physical act of typing keys, was the only real writing. And now I realize that thinking is writing. I love, oh, yes, Nancy, I love that you brought up the outline. Okay, plotter versus pantser, or my favorite, the plantser. Plotting works great for some people, and pantsing, which are discovery writers, works great for other people. And I always thought you had to be one or the other. And I always found that the people I admired the most were plotters. Except once I plotted out the whole book and I knew the whole story, I felt like I wrote it and then I wouldn't do it. So I think there are some people who the outline is fantastic and then they go in and they finesse the words, and that is honestly, some of my favorite writers work that way, and I love the way they do it. And they have such clean writing. I actually am when I write mysteries. Oh, here's a little tip for cozy mysteries or any mystery at all. It goes like this: longer mystery, more suspects, right? So let's say shorter mystery, 4 suspects. Every suspect has a secret. One of the secrets is they're a killer. Go. That's it. That's all I need. I need every secret that every character has, and I just need to know how they killed them, and that's it. And then the rest, I use scene sequel, goal, conflict resolution. I just know that at some point clues must be made and the killer will be found. So I just work backwards from the how they died And then I just know every secret and I know who did it. And then I go. Apparently Agatha Christie, she just made it so that anybody could be the killer. She didn't know until she got to the end. So she was a pantser, believe it or not. And her mysteries are so tight. But plantsing is yes, Nancy the plantser too. They plot and pants. So just know that, find out what I call the minimum viable effort. Like, in other words, detailed outline. If it really makes you excited to get through and get to that outline, great. But otherwise, if you just want to do like a little bit at a time, I highly recommend planting. Planting is like the discovery writer, like the minimum amount of, like, if you just want to plot like goal, conflict, disaster, the scene sequel: goal, conflict, disaster, reaction, dilemma, decision. So every scene, there's a goal that the main character has, there's a conflict that they go through, there's a disaster at the end. The next chapter, reaction to that disaster, a new dilemma, and a decision on how to fix that dilemma. And sometimes just like doing those mini plots can help you through a scene and like move things quickly. Also, I love that somebody brought up the sticker on the laptop at the bottom of the keyboard that says "You are capable." Oh, I love that. And I love the concept of stickers. One of my favorite things to do. Has anybody read the book Momentum by Stephen Geis? Do you remember the book? Okay. No. Okay, great. All right. I'll sum it up in one sentence. And he did this in his book. You're likely to do what you just did. Okay. So you know how like there's this thing where people say, "Oh, time spent writing," and you track your word counts. Exactly. Okay. So I have a rule when I'm really low where I say, "Okay, that's it. I'm writing every day, but writing counts like this: 2 minutes on task or 2 sentences. That's it." Then I get this little star and I put it on my calendar and I just make that streak happen. Now, at first I thought that is the stupidest thing I ever heard. I will never finish my book this way. Here's the deal. The concept of momentum is really interesting, and I never understood what the point of it was. You're always creating momentum for either doing or not doing. Okay, so if you have not been writing, anything, any bit is not only getting you closer to writing more and finishing more, it's also cutting short the habit of not writing. So if you set your goals super, super low, they've actually done studies where the feeling of accomplishment actually does more for you than the feeling of defeat. So when you're really down and out and you're not doing what you want to do, lower the bar, count the win, and keep going. I remember I've been working on losing weight. I call it the part-time dieter. Okay, and I've lost 16 pounds in 12 months. So that is a very slow rate. And for the first 3 months, what I managed to do as my victory was I just wasn't getting fatter as fast. That was where the momentum was. I just slowed down the gaining and then I brought it back. And then I finally started to lose more weight. And I just started to layer in because I have a life and I want to do stuff and I don't want to be obsessed with everything I eat. And so now all I do is I diet 2 days a week and I try not to get too fat on the other 5. Like that's so far where I'm at with that. And I have found being able to be excited about like little tiny micro wins can genuinely help get you out of the muck. And what's really funny is, so I started with just let's not get fatter faster, right? And it works the same thing with writing. I started with 2 minutes, 2 sentences, and then before you know it, I wrote a whole 5-book series called The Bronson Billionaires. And I wrote all 5 of those books inside of 13 and a half months. And it started off with 2 sentences and 2 minutes. I just finished my first half marathon. And it started with 2 minutes on the treadmill. Now, when I say I finished my half marathon, recognize this. I did not run the whole thing. I kind of staggered and ran and sweat, and I won last. It took 4 hours. And that was the fastest I've ever run it. And that brings me to my other thing that I want to talk about, which is very controversial, but I'm in for it. I call it the ugly win. It is, I am the queen of the ugly win. If you are so close to trying to get what you want to get done and you're just so worried about it, I guess in sports, it's like you're throwing elbows. I'm not a sport person. You're fouling. You're just trying to do anything. For me, that is me running. That is what I'm trying to learn. Running is a strong word. That is me shuffling as quickly as I can, then walking and sweating a lot. But that is how I finished a half marathon. When before I was using a walker for a brief period because of a car accident. So 2 minutes, two sentences, you get the sticker, you chalk up the win. And if you only want to write 6 days a week, and you know the seventh day is rest, you get a sticker for the day that you decide I'm resting on this day. You get the sticker. You keep the stickers going. But what you'll find is the momentum will actually kick in. You're likely to do what you just did. So the key isn't to never quit. The key is to restart over and over and over again. I'm the queen of quitting. I'm the queen of failing. I've started so many books that I haven't finished. Um, yeah, I'm just thinking of all the books that I haven't finished just now, like the flood of them just came into my ears. I've started so many books that I haven't finished. But what's amazing about it is that I did finish 22. I finished and published them. And I did a little bit at a time. And some of them, feel free to read my reviews. You will be horrified. I mean, I once I have two journalism teachers who follow me on Facebook, and I was posting some of the reviews, and when I got on like an Amazon bestseller list, and one of my journalism teachers was like, "Oh, I'm looking in the reviews, and I can see that there's some editorial issues, some typos." And he's like, "Do you need someone to edit?" I can afford my teacher; he's too expensive. You know what I mean? I wasn't making that much money that time, and I was like, "No, I can feel the writing from here." Now, as horrifying as that would be to somebody who is, let's just be honest, better than me at that. Like, and there are tons of people who are better. Um, the truth is, there are a lot of readers out there that like my books, and 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 I've gone back and I've untypoed them and I've republished them again, like just upgraded the file. I've actually updated a file and updated in another typo. That's always been fun. I'm good at that. And you know what? In the end, it was an ugly win in some ways, but in other ways, it's like really incredibly beautiful. So I would just say that sometimes it's worth it to just get to the end, however you can get there. So and acknowledging, okay, when you take advice, there's what you should do, there's what you could do, and there's what you're most likely going to do. Okay, the should do is the way that it's supposed to be done, the right way. By all means, if you can do it the right way, go for it. Like that, absolutely, absolutely do that. There's what you could do. That's a possibility of all the things. But when it's late at night and or worse, it's the middle of the day and you're laying in bed just thinking of all the things that you really should be doing because everything is so overwhelming. I would say find the advice you can take that is in the realm of what you're most likely going to do. So if what you're going to do is you're going to eat cookies and try to figure out one thing that you can do today that gets you a little bit forward, just do it. And if your brain starts to tell you that's not going to be enough, ignore it. Because when you create momentum, that little bit, you're likely to do what you just did. You'd be surprised at how it adds up. 2 minutes on the treadmill turns into a half marathon. 2 sentences a day turns into a 5-book series. That's what got me into NINC. And all those things come together. So there's so much. Okay, there's a ton of time. All right, a couple of really quick, like down and dirty strategies. All right. If you're feeling really down, either raise the stakes or lower them. Okay. So if I really don't want to do something, for instance, I don't want to get on the treadmill. What I do is I say, if I get on the treadmill for 2 minutes right now, this is how I'm going to have a supermodel body and I'm going to win the LA marathon. Like, and I just kind of focus on that and then I jump onto it. I call it the gulp and go for it method. Here's the gulp and go for it. Ready? Gulp is GULP. Gulp is the goal. It's, in other words, the point that you're going to win right now. Okay, so like I'm going to get on the marathon. I'm going to get on this treadmill and I'm going to be on it for 5 minutes or 2 minutes, right? That is the point I'm trying to win. The U stands for the ultimate win. That is me with my supermodel body in 2.5 years, finishing the LA marathon in March, right? The L okay, is the where am I going to lose this point? The L is what gets in my way. So if in the morning I know I want to work out, okay, the goal is to work out. The ultimate win is I'm going to be amazing and I'm going to imagine what that looks like. The L is where am I going to lose? And the L is I start to say to myself, I can do it later. So I remember when I hear myself think I'm going to do it later, like I'm going to write later, I come up with a plan. And so if it's writing, if I think, okay, I'm going to write my 2 sentences as the goal. The ultimate win is best-selling status. I'm going to be the richest writer. I'm going to be the next amazing person who writes books. And the plan, the loss is I'm going to say I'll do it later, or I feel like I can't do it. I don't have anything. The plan is when I think that thought, I'll do it later, I'm going to get up, go to my computer, and open the file. So that is how you sort of visualize your way through what can happen. So figure out gulp, the goal, the ultimate win, where you usually lose, and the P is the play. That's the plan. So the plan is the second I think I'm going to do that later, just walk to the computer, open up the file, type. And every time I've done that, it hasn't worked. I'll be honest. It works 7 out of 10 times. But what I've noticed is the reason why it doesn't work is because what got caught up was I took a phone call instead. So the next time I create a plan for what the phone call is. And so you just do that over it. So you just gulp and then you go for it. So you plan what is going to go wrong in your mind. You plan for that contingency and then you go for it. Okay, gulp, take stock. I want to just really quickly, I know we only have a half hour. Okay, the T is for team. Okay, this is what's great about being part of TAF. And this is what's great about knowing Dawn, is Dawn is so great with connecting people. For me, my team consists of my sister, who does a lot of admin tasks that I'm terrible at, and I trained her how to do them all. My coach, I have a coach that I actually work a spreadsheet with, that I literally have like points, and in 94%, I get a score every day. And if the plan is not going well, I don't think, how have I failed today? I think, what's wrong with the plan? Not what's wrong. It's instead of the manuscript isn't working, I'm a bad writer. It's what's wrong with the manuscript? Why is it not this? Instead of that like accusatory thinking, I rework the plan. So when you put together a team, get a coach or get another writer that you're matching with. If you don't like admin or you don't like editors, then you get an editor. If you need somebody to talk out your ideas with, then you pair up with another writer. You figure out who you're going to work with. And Dawn is so great at assembling team. I feel like Dawn is Samuel Jackson in the Avengers. Like I feel like that's like Dawn, like he knows everybody. But that's
Half
what's so
assemble. The next Marvel movie.
exactly. So when you're doing things, just be really careful. Know who you are, like assess who you are and where you are. Take some time to like rethink some thoughts about yourself, maybe some affirmations, whatever it is. Then when you get into realigning yourself, that's like the strategies. And there's a ton more strategies. I wish, oh, there's so much. And then the end is team. And I got to tell you, having people, I use flow.club. And they have like flows running every hour where you literally log onto a computer and you tell everybody what you're going to do and you have a little to-do list and you check off, edit this, scene 2, blah, blah, blah. I've done laundry. I've done editing. I've wrote 3 books in Flow Club, like little things like that, or you just pair up like with somebody else in TAF. And the team part and the accountability for me is magic. So I 103. Oh my God. I'm sorry I missed some of the chats, but I hope I made some sense. This is something that I've just newly started writing about, but it's something that I've been really using for years. And so I'd be glad to take any questions. I hope I didn't bore you.
Christy, we do have some time. If you've got 1 or 2 additional points or tips or something you'd like to recommend, we certainly have time for that.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're going to set up, I used to have a group that I called the 2%ers, right? And the concept is people who write down their goals are 2% more likely, are in the top 2% of all the hundreds or whatever. And what we did is we created a group. And in the group, we had a weekly coffee bet. But if coffee bet isn't enough, it used to be the person who won which is the people who like finished all their goals. They got to choose the place and time of the next meeting or whatnot. But regardless, when you put together like a team, the way it usually works is everybody goes around the table and says how their week went and where they could use some help. And it's timed usually, so you don't have the one person taking forever. And you give everybody like 5 minutes. And then you commit to what you're going to do next week. And there's something about verbalizing what you're working on and what you're going through that actually genuinely helps. Like if you're going to like do like a teamwork situation. The other thing that I really love is I use a program called Rescue Time. They have a free version that you can install. Rescue Time allows you to see all of what you've been doing on your computer every day. And it is, oh, really? Was I arguing with people on the, am I the a-hole thread on Reddit for 2 hours? Oh, okay, yeah, that's interesting. That's a great use of my time. But so if you download something like Rescue Time, it can really help you work on your stats. And then I think they've got paid programs that I would do it for just a month and then unsubscribe because subscriptions just over time for me, they just millions of dollars in subscriptions. One of the interesting things they do though is you rate on that program what how productive you consider certain things, and it'll actually show you over time what hours you seem to do most of your writing in. And so you can see like, oh, my best work happens. I'm a night person, but it turns out some of my best writing is done way, way, way at night, which I knew, but also in the first 2 hours that I'm awake, which is not the morning, just mental note, not the morning, but it's usually like between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. And I wouldn't have known that I got that much work done right at the top. And they say if you win the first and last hour of the day, you win the day. So I really love Rescue Time. I'm a big fan of Scrivener, of course. Um, I'm also I use Flow Club, but there's other things called Focus Mates. And as far as like discovering who you are accountability wise, Becca Syme has a. I'm actually going to be making a quiz that kind of decides like if you're a more external or internal writer or person to figure out what advice you should take. I think the biggest problem I had was I was trying to take advice, and it was some advice that was never going to work for me. And so when you figure out who you are, like I am more of a thinker, but doing things is more difficult for me. So when I do things, I need a very specific goal. But there are other people who can do a ton of stuff all the time. But what they have a problem with is coming up with how to do it. So then what they would do is they would just get, I mean, if you're a person who has a hard time figuring out like a system for things, all you do is you find somebody who does it in a way that looks right to you. You write to them and ask them what they would do, what they'd charge you for an hour for consulting, and you just have somebody who already did it tell you how. It's that simple. It's amazing how many people would love to, and the rates are like the second I realized I could just buy an hour of somebody's time and learn everything they knew in an hour, my life just got instantly better. Also, I'm never going to take a, like if I take a course and I can't speed up the videos by 1.7x speed, then I'm never going to finish that course. So it's like you just find out who you are and then you go forward. But Becca Syme's Strengths for Writers, she does Clifton Strengths for writers, and you take like it's a very long questionnaire, and then they tell you who you are. But when you first read it, it just you feel like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. You got to go into like Becca's group, and she can give you some really interesting insights into how you align yourself with your natural tendencies so that you can get to be more successful, which is I highly recommend those. And then Rethinking Positive Thinking by Odinger is her last name. I can't remember her first name, but the book is definitely Rethinking Positive Thinking. She is the person who developed the technique of visualizing not just where you're going to go right, but where it's typically going to go wrong and how you're going to overcome that. And that's where I get the gulp and go for it. I think she uses something called Whoop, but that book is fantastic. And then Stephen Geis's Momentum is a great way to figure out more about like mini habits and why it really does pay out over time. And I do that other habit guy, not BJ Fogg, but the big one. I'm on his list. The other habit guy, his book is pretty good, but for me, I need the accountability. Otherwise, I just won't do the habit. Like if I just won't.
Christy, before we go to questions, I neglected to read your bio. Let me read that super quick so everybody has an idea of where you're coming from professionally. Christy Murphy has written and published 22 books, including the Mom and Christy Cozy Mysteries and the Bronson Billionaire series, written under the pen name Tina Gabor. Her nonfiction work has appeared in award-winning publications such as the Miami Herald, Fort Lauderdale Sun-Sentinel, X Magazine, and Cat Fancy. As a comedian, she's been featured on numerous television and radio programs, including CNN's Showbiz Today, CBS Channel 2, and Australia's 7 News. The LA Times called her comedy show, quote, a kinder, gentler, more thoughtful comedy night, and it was named both LA Weekly's Pick of the Week and Best of LA. Her album of comedy songs, Feeling Good, Looking Good, has been played on satellite radio and is available wherever digital music is sold. And I have it on DVD. I mean, I have it on CD, and it's an awesome CD. I love this song so much. So, Christy, let me ask you a really important question. Would you say you're making a living with your writing?
Yes, yes, I have for a while now. Yeah, I was a blogger for a while when that was a thing back in 2007, and that's when I first started making a living as a writer. Like I got to fill that out of my taxes. It felt great.
So you don't have technically a day job. You're a professional writer.
Yes,
Is that accurate?
unless you count, I've made more money lately helping other writers. I've done that as a extra money, but yes, I make the money writing books and blogging and through AdSense and stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. Who has some questions for Christy? Anybody? Anybody at all? If you've taken off your camera, I can't see you. Christy,
I
can you?
love that Rebecca wrote about the no internet, etc., and writing on her computer and the do not disturb on her phone. I think that's really great. There's also an app called Self Control that is free that you can download. And there's a Chrome extension called Focus that you can download that actually limits the amount of time that you can have be on YouTube to externalize that accountability. And I think that's fantastic. I love that.
You remember Marilyn Campbell, the
Yes, I
mystery
do.
writer? She went at the height of her career, she would basically turn off her telephone and she had an answering machine and it basically said, I'm writing right now, leave a message, I'll get back to you later. And that was her way of just basically shoving aside all interruptions for that work opportunity at that moment. I think that's a good idea. And this is kind of before the internet though. So I think now that phone call thing is transitioned to time wasting on, checking YouTube and stuff like that. But she made that forceful effort, that main decision that this was her writing time and she was not going to be interrupted for any reason. And I think too many writers probably don't follow that. I know I'm one of them. I know that I could be better with my own time management. So does anyone else have any thoughts for Christy or anything, any questions or anything?
Oh, I see somebody wrote down here. How many books did you have before you started making consistent money? Five. Five in a series was the key.
Tell us a little bit about that path, Christy. What you know what I mean? What led up to that moment of when you were over the precipice?
Okay, so when I wrote the Lusted series, I wrote books 1 and 2, and I expected millions to fall into my lap, and that did not happen. And then I finished books 3 and 4. Just because I needed to know that I could finish things. So I finished it quickly and I made some money. Luckily at that time, I still had my thankyou-site.com, which is a website dedicated to thank you. That's how I learned search engine optimization. And so I was still making enough money there for AdSense. But when I started to redo another book, I really wanted to learn more about self-publishing. And that's when I started the Mom and Christy Cozy Mysteries. If I were to do those series again, I would definitely make a longer series. Those books are only like they're ranging in length from like 25 to 40,000 words, which is just way too short. I would recommend if you're doing a series, especially if you're in Kindle Unlimited, to have those books be in excess of 65,000 words because of the page. Yes. So when I did the Mom and Christie's are mysteries that you can write, that you can read like solo. So you can come in at any time and there's a recap. So it's episodic television, so to speak. My first 4 book Lusted was the ones where you go one after another. I wouldn't recommend those because if book 1 isn't a hit, they can't come in at book 2. And so you're kind of you're stuck or you're not finishing it. So when somebody says with each book, when I did the Bronson Billionaires, which I think was the thing about romance is it's a big churn. You got to write, you got to keep going. It was each book was definitely Rebecca. It was definitely a different couple. And for the mysteries, for the Mom and Christy mysteries, it was each one was a different mystery with always an overarching thing to keep them coming back. And that was a relationship between Mom, and there was also a relationship between her and, of course, the hunky local detective. Our less than perfect hero is named DC Cooper, which stands, which is very similar. Oh my God, is my guy's name David Charles? Yes, it is. So I stole people from my life and I ruthlessly put them into my books. And every once in a while, a reader will find their name in one of my books as like a readers club kind of thing. And I think it's always fun when you're writing to your readers to be able to, like, if they don't mind. I'd threaten them on Facebook, keep it up, and you're gonna end up in one of my books. And they're like, do it, do it. And so I do that. And like literally, I think it was Jerry from the Cozy Mystery Corner on Facebook. She has like a group of, and I was a guest author in there. I put in a readers group and I made the president's name Jerry, just like hers. And she's like, I'm reading the book, and I scream out to my husband, oh my God, I'm in this book. And that kind of fun thing is always like, it's always a good way to get readers in. And it's also just a fun way to like you got to put characters in anyway. So you might as well have somebody named Don
Kill me.
who
Kill me gruesomely. I would love that. Show me how much you love
like
me,
a
Christy,
collector.
by killing me gruesomely.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm glad you were here, Maya. Thanks for coming. Um, well, Don, you're actually the kind of person who I think is in perfect alignment. Like one of the interesting things that I've noticed from knowing you over the years is there's a person in Clifton and Strengths call it high input. These people are usually collectors, and they have a tendency to dive deep and know a lot about many things. And what I found interesting when I look at you, not just hobby wise, but writing wise, I just found it amazing. I was like, I bet you Don is high input. And then the last we spoke, you're like, and I'm writing for an Encyclopedia Britannica about just everything. And I was like, yeah, you literally collect people, ideas, thoughts, and things. It's
And
amazing.
books. Don't
Uh,
forget the books.
those books,
Yeah. I have a
they're so, I'm
question.
impressed. Oh, yeah, Channa.
By the way, I have a T-shirt that says "Be nice to me, or I'll put you in my next book." Question is, I've been working on a novel forever, and I finally dawned on me what's keeping me from finishing it, because I'm just about done. Because it turned into something that lends itself to a series, which I didn't want to do, but I've done. And terrified myself, like, oh my God, if they put this out there and people want it, they're going to want more, because they're already telling me this. So any advice, suggestions on how to get over that terror wall?
Okay, yes, I am a big, here's the thing about terror that I love. Terror is a sign that you are stepping into greatness. And let me tell you something, putting together a series is the best marketing you can ever do. It is so much easier to sell a book in a series. It is so much better. And like, when I started doing stand up a long time ago and I started like making records and writing books, that terror let me know that I was really doing something great. Like, because literally the man in the arena, right? Daring greatly. Brene Brown wrote that book, based on the quote. That terror, it's the reason why everybody doesn't do it. Remember, A League of Their Own, Tom Hanks, the heart is what makes it good. Okay.
Mhm.
That terror,
That's a good reminder, because I have one of my sayings is feel the fear and do it anyway. When I
that's the,
first became a lifeguard and I had to do the test for that, I was so petrified that I dissociated and didn't realize I was even swimming. And I had to ask at one point when we went into the classroom if I'd passed, and they all looked at me and said, "You wouldn't be sitting here if you hadn't passed."
but I'm telling you,
Petrified
that
I had been.
terror, it's a sign. It's a sign of doing great things. I've got, and also just the particular problem that you have, marketer's dream. That series are so much easier to market. They're so much easier. It's easier to keep a customer than get a new one. And so when the people love it, like that's a winner. It's a winner.
Anyone else have questions?
I want that shirt.
Which one?
Be nice to me or I'll put you in my next book.
Okay, I guess, see, I don't see any other questions here. Christy, I guess we're at the end of this.
I
And you
really
were
hope there was
awesome. I
something
really
here.
appreciate the information and the insight on this. This is a direction we've never really talked about in TAF as far as, just the many obstacles that we face, whether you write fiction or nonfiction, novels or magazine articles, we're all basically in the same big leaky boat. And, and all of us have issues with time management and, motivation and things like that. So I really, truly appreciate what you brought this evening. I thought it was very helpful, and really a deep dive into an area that we hadn't explored that much. And would you like to hang with us? This is the part where we share our good news. And I think you might like that.
I love good news.
Yeah. Who has something to share?
I have some very big news.
Hannah?
I approached Amy, the editor at Writer's Digest, with a pitch to interview Henry Winkler, because he's written a children's series that really took off in his best-selling series, and he just completed his biography. I went to his book tour for that last November at the McKimmon Center and spoke to him afterwards. And Amy loved the pitch, and she turned it into 2 pieces, one for the website and one for a column in the magazine. And she sent, so I wrote out the pitch. It took me 2 weeks to get the pitch just right. And then sent it to her. I'm dyslexic, so things take me a while. And sent it to her, and she loved it. She sent it off to the 2 other editors, the one for the website and for the column. They loved it and gave me the go ahead. So I talked to the publicist. So we're just waiting for him to get back from a trip in Ireland. He'll be back next month. So time is going to be really short because the deadline is August 2nd. But in a good way and bad way, I work really well under pressure. So I know I'll get done.
Hannah, will this be a Q&A with Henry Winkler or more of a narrative profile kind of thing?
For the column, more of a narrative. For the website, more of a Q&A.
Okay, that's exciting. That is
Because
really,
he's
really
severely
exciting.
dyslexic. This is the big point of the article. And October is Dyslexia Awareness Month internationally. And this is another way, someone who, struggled in school, was always like the lowest student. And here he is, never dreamed he'd be able to become an author. And he did. He found a workaround for it. So, and I really related to a lot of his story of troubles, that he had, because I had got the same kind of stuff. You're lazy, not trying hard enough, yada, yada, yada.
That's
So
exciting news, Hannah. I can't wait to see that article, both of them, when they're done.
I'm
Congratulations.
excited and
I know
terrified.
how hard you worked on those proposals, so I'm not surprised at all that Amy said yes to that.
Yep.
That's wonderful. And Drew, I see Drew's hand up.
Yeah, I was able to connect with Elizabeth Rennick, and I wrote 2 articles about Fuquay-Varina, and I'm getting ready, in fact, to interview for one for the fall. I've got 2 of the summer ones done, and so those will come out in the 5W magazine. So I'm really excited about that. And I also want to ask people to send me blog posts, because I'm now taking care of the blog posts. So if you have ideas for a blog post, send them, because we do them once a month. So
On any
I'm looking
aspect of writing or publishing, as long as it's related to that. Yeah. And Drew's taking over from Elaine on this. Drew, thank you so much for assuming that responsibility. And yeah, we're looking for ideas for coming months. We need 12 a year. So if you've got some, it's also a great way, if you've got noodling some ideas about writing, want to do something like that. So definitely, keep it in mind and send your stuff to Drew. We need that. And Mike?
Thank you.
I know Mike's good news.
If I don't say this, Don's going to call me out anyways. And ironic that Drew just came out with it. I am actually writing for 5 West as well, for Holly Springs. I've got a piece that's going to come out in the July, August edition, and I'm going to be approaching a business to do a spotlight for them in the September, October edition. So
these are just the first of many, Mike. Let me ask you, are you having fun with this?
I am actually. The first one was, I mean, um, of course, was, how to cool off in the summer. And yours truly decided to go through downtown Holly Springs and visit ice cream parlors, which was great. Did not help my efforts to, lose 5 pounds off my waistline. I think I put 5 pounds on. So
To eat ice cream and get paid for it is like the best job in the world. Christy, we have a habit of swarming magazines. We are all over Writer's Digest now. Got member Allison Hill, one of our members, is doing a regular monthly column about journalism. Some of our members are on the masthead. Others have written feature articles, and Amy Jones, the editor of Writer's Digest, was actually our nonfiction guest of honor at our conference in April. So yeah, we did that, and now we're taking over the magazines that Mike and Andrew were writing for also.
They're lucky to have TAF. TAF is one of the best. I've been to some stuff in LA. I remember I flew out for your convention. It was the best one. And you had a box lunch. It was awesome.
It is, and we have a national reach now. I mean, we are really, even though we're Triangle based, we're a national writing organization, and we even have one member in Canada. So, we're doing well. We're doing well. Anyone else have anything to share? Oh, Arlene, make sure you unmute.
My good news is that our deadline is coming up for submissions for the TAF and Omnibus for this year, July 14th. We've got 10 submissions already, about 90 pages done, and looking for a few more. So TAF writers, get on the ball and let's send in some
Mine
more
is coming.
stories, essays, whatever you have.
Poetry, we're across.
It's gonna be an excellent omnibus.
Yeah.
I mean, really, some really good stuff in there.
I
This is fun. I love doing this, by the way. I absolutely love doing this. I enjoy it.
You're
Joel?
very good at it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have bizarre good news, I guess. I'm not sure if I've sold it or if I'll be paid, but it would certainly be a very great amount of publicity. My wife suggested I make a pitch to Anne Monique at Walter about using my Christmas sculpture that I made 25 years ago as part of their front cover and a full fold out. It's a piece called Santa Claus and the 8 Tiny Rim Deer. They're rim deer because they're made out of wheel rims. And Santa Claus's sleigh is a wheelbarrow. And it's about 25 feet long. And I set it out front with Christmas lights every year. And so I pitched it to her and I said, this would be great for a cover, a fold out, etc. And she said, yeah, we'll send, we'll do a photo session in October. So you want to come around and see Santa Claus really early, you can come to my house. But I'm not sure exactly, because I've sold to Walter before, but I've never pitched him to do pictures of my own sculpture.
Will you get paid for that?
I don't know, but let's put it this way: anybody who sees it and wants to buy it would be a hell of a lot more than I've made wrong.
There you go.
And as a
Congrats
matter of
on
fact,
that. That's awesome, Joel.
for you and Mark, what I've been working on is a gigantic, fantastical flying machine. I'll have to send you some pictures.
Please do.
But, yeah, because I've got about a dozen fantastical flying machines, and my wife says they have to go out. They have to find a home, preferably a paying home. And so that's where I've been putting some of my writing energies instead.
Good luck with all of that.
Yeah.
I love.
And by the way,
send me a picture of the flying machine. I
by the
love
way,
that.
Christy, it is. I understand the whole bit about being diagnosed late in life with ADD because I'm on every conceivable drug for ADD. And I didn't find out till I was 60. And you just sort of look around and go, oh, that's why my life has been that way.
It
It's
explains
funny.
a
I read
lot.
all those books without the meds. I'm dying to know what I could do with them.
Any last questions? Any good news to report? Anything fun going on? Rebecca, I see you there. Anything?
Well, I don't know if it's good news exactly. So I did submit to Asimov's. I unfortunately did not make it, at least for the story this round. But that's okay. I'm pressing on to other publications that are sci-fi short story based. So Christy, I was emailing to TAF, but I have a short story that I finished, a science fiction short story. And so I decided I was gonna send it off to Asimov's, and if not them, then Clark's World or Analog, or see what else I can find. And if nothing else, then I will at some point when I finish my novel here at sometime this century, I'm thinking about doing a Kickstarter for it, and perhaps using the short story as like a stretch goal or something like that. So I've got plans for it, something somewhere at some point it'll do something for me. So not exactly good news, but it's good news in the sense that I'm progressing and moving on. I actually have something to work with.
That was a quick response from them, which is actually better than being dragged along for a long time, then kicked to the curb. But Rebecca,
Yes.
do you mind if I brag for just a second about your Christmas, the story you wrote, the Christmas romance story? Because Christy's writing had the romance stuff that she did. And Rebecca, it's hard for me. Rebecca, tell her super quick that story is about. Because I love that story so much.
Oh gosh, Don, you you just did rave about it, and so under a pen name, I wrote a Christmas story based off of A Christmas Carol. Only instead of it being Ebenezer Scrooge, it's a romance writer, actually, a lady, and so she goes through the whole thing about she has the whole Christmas past and present and future, and all of that. But instead of it being the different ghosts, it's one of her characters, her heroes, comes to her as the Christmas ghost. And so it's the just basically the whole story, the Christmas Carol, only it's a woman, and she's got her past kind of situations that lead to her being the way she is and stuff. So yeah, Don apparently really enjoyed it.
I liked it. This is a great story. I hope you can sell it. I really
Thank
do.
you.
Great.
And if you ever self-publish holiday Christmas stories, is a really nice hot genre that every Christmas they do better and better. So yeah,
Oh,
if
hey,
you ever
fantastic.
self-publish it, just know that holiday romance is a subcategory in Kindle, and it still does well.
Awesome.
Oh, good. All right.
And you can do it
Thank
again
you.
in July, because there's all these Christmas in July things that happen.
All right, folks, I guess before we go, anybody else have any concluding thoughts, any questions for Christy, or anything else to brag about?
Just a really quick tip for Rebecca later, if you, with your short story, even, if you retain some of the rights or you end up using it yourself, with a company like BookFunnel or BookSweeps or whatnot, you can use it as a lead generator to get people onto your mailing list so that you can pre-sell them to get them to buy your first book in, when you have your novel ready. And having a nice little extra thing in the back of your book that you can give people is a great way to get people to your list. So you'll get plenty of mileage out of that story no matter what happens.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Christy, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, everything you've given us this evening, and it's awesome just to visit with you again. Please tell Edie that I said hello and that we missed her. And I hope you have a safe trip back to Los Angeles.